Divine revelations for God's chosen miraculous prophecies manifested this August 15th and 16th. In the quaint English village of Tintagel, where watercolors painted the skies and rolling hills cradled the homes, something extraordinary was brewing. The chapels glimmered as villagers whispered of divine promises delivered through prayer chants for healing unlike anything they had ever witnessed. Mary, a devoted mother known for her impassioned prayers, felt it in her bones. Her son, Thomas, gravely ill, had become the village's beacon of hope as the fateful dates of August 15th and 16th approached. The rumors echoed through the cobblestone streets. Miracles would manifest. Every evening, Mary knelt fervently before an old oak altar in their small chapel. With fervor, her voice pierced the silence of the night, each word laced with desperation. "Show us a sign, dear Lord. Deliver my boy." Through her haze of tears, she felt warmth in inexplicable presence. Then, as if heaven had opened the gates, an image of her patron saint appeared, glowing with a light that made her heart race. "Healing will come," whispered the air, echoing in her ears. On the 15th and 16th, it was a proclamation that set her spirit ablaze. Before long, the village became a tapestry of shared faith. Mary gathered her neighbors, and together they shared their stories of miracles witnessed in days gone by. "It's time to gather in prayer," she told them, her eyes shining with fervent belief. The villagers listened, spirits rekindled by the promise of hope. Their prayers reached toward the heavens, where Mary believed the divine resided. But as doubt crept in, murmurs suffocated the joy blooming within the village. Some parishioners questioned Mary's revelation. How can one woman know the will of God? They asked in hushed tones. Mary clutched her rosary, feeling the weight of disbelief bearing down on her soul. "What if it's just a wish?" echoed in her mind, threatening to drown out God's whisper. The vigil began as the sun dipped below the hills, the chapel shadowed in anxious anticipation. Candles flickered, casting soft glows on worried faces. "We come to seek healing," Mary began, her voice steady yet choked with emotion. She felt every set of eyes on her, their collective hope hanging in the air like mist. Each prayer grew louder, each hymn more fervent, a chorus of love reaching for the divine. As the congregation joined in, the atmosphere thickened with sacred energy. In that moment, Mary sensed the Spirit soaring in unseen power, radiating warmth through the chapel. "Feel it. It's here," her heart whispered as she joined hands with each villager, feeling their dreams intertwine. It was electrifying, their breaths synchronized, as if awaiting a thunderstorm of blessings. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Just as they reached the height of their fervent pleas, a startling warmth enveloped Thomas, lying weakly at the chapel's edge. Gasps of wonder rippled through the congregation. Was this the moment they had been waiting for? Hope danced precariously between faith and doubt, and all eyes were fixed, hearts thumping like thunder. Would the promised healing descend upon them? The village's breath was held, caught between disbelief and awe. The candlelight flickered, and in silence, they awaited what August 15th and 16th would unveil. Would their faith be transformed into the tangible gift of healing? As they clasped hands, Mary felt the air crackling with divine mystery, knowing deep down that the impossible was teetering tantalizingly close within reach. The vigil deepened as the night wrapped its cool fingers around the chapel, holding every soul inside in a gentle embrace. The flickering candles cast shadows that danced on the worn stone walls, illuminating the faces of believers who had gathered, united by their devotion. Mary's heart pounded with the weight of anticipation. She could feel the collective breath of the villagers, a rhythm echoing their shared hope. Then, in the stillness, a sound, a gasp, sharp and sudden, pierced the air. Mary turned to see Thomas, momentarily stirring. Enlightened glimmers sparkled in his closed eyelids. There was something electric about the atmosphere. It was as if the very air was charged with possibility. A murmur rippled through the congregation, eyes widening, breaths catching as if a prayer of belief exhaled loudly in collective wonder. "Thomas!" Mary cried softly, tears of joy and anxiety mingling. The glow of the candles danced in her eyes as she stepped closer to her son, her heart full to bursting. "Please, dear Lord, let this be it," she whispered, clasping her hands tightly, the rosary beads digging into her palm. Around her, the villagers leaned closer, stepping into the sacred space between faith and trepidation. Their voices melded, rising and falling in a melodic weave of supplication. "Yes, Lord, let your healing touch be felt." Each heart beat in synchrony, a profound unity born from desperation and love. All of a sudden light, a soft glow breathed through the chapel. Some saw it as a golden hue, while others noticed a brilliant silver shimmer. Gasps turned to a chorus of hallelujahs as the seemingly impossible surged through the room. Mary felt it, an unearthly warmth radiating from her son. In that moment, the walls of the chapel echoed their collective prayers, harmonizing into a beautiful sound. As if on cue, Thomas's eyelids fluttered open. His gaze, once void, sparkled with newfound clarity. "Mother?" he whispered, his voice a thread woven from dreams and dawn. The transformation was like the breaking of a new day, a powerful testament that soared over despair. "What is happening?" he asked, confusion dancing on his lips, matched only by the wonder radiating from the faces around him. Mary knelt beside him, joy spilling forth as she kissed his forehead, grounding herself in the tender moment. "You're here. You're with us. Our prayers they've brought you back." But even as the crowd erupted in cheers, Mary felt a twinge of uncertainty grip her heart. Was this the miracle they had all prayed for, or merely a glimmer of hope amidst challenges yet to be faced? Deep questions churned within her. The doubts that had once whispered in the dark now bubbled up again. What if this was just the beginning? "Hold fast to your faith," someone cried out, their voice ringing clear against the chorus of excitement. "This is our miracle. Praise be." And still, whispers of trepidation tugged at the edges of Mary's heart. Would this miracle lead to deeper tests of faith, a trial shaped by greater expectations? As the villagers rejoiced, Mary took a moment to glance at Thomas, seeing not only his awareness, but also the vulnerability that continued to inhabit his frail body. She sensed that something greater was at play, a divine narrative unfolding that they would have to navigate together. In that hallowed moment, Mary found strength. "We must trust together, no matter what comes," she pronounced, raising her voice above the jubilant noise. "We will face this promise with unwavering hearts." But somewhere beneath the surface, a thought lingered, the kind that unsettles yet beckons. What further challenges awaited them on this journey? The light in the chapel dimmed slightly as a heavy stillness set in again, an unspoken question hanging in the air. Through the joys ahead, would they remain steadfast, united in faith against the waves to come? The atmosphere inside the chapel swelled with joy, laughter mingling with praise. Yet Mary's heart held a silken thread of doubt. As the villagers sang hymns of gratitude, she filtered through the familiar faces around her, searching for the strength she knew she needed. How could she embrace pure joy when shadows loomed quietly at the edges of her mind? "Thomas," she whispered, looking deep into her son's eyes, now vibrant with life. "You're back with us, but we must tread carefully. This return, it feels sacred, but what lies ahead?" She knew well the path of faith was not always paved with certainty. "I can feel it, Mother. Something remarkable is happening. Can you not see?" Thomas smiled, his spirit ignited by the energy swirling in the air. "Our prayers have transformed this place. We are renewed." His voice rang with conviction, stirring the hearts around them even more. The congregation surged, arms raised high, hands clasped in fervent prayer. They were swept away in the zealous euphoria, oblivious to the storm that often followed the calm. Mary watched, her heart swelling with love for her son and the community that wrapped around him like a warm blanket. Yet the echoes of doubt remained a symphony of questions, silent but profound. As if answering her unspoken prayer, the village elder, a figure of quiet wisdom named Father Elias, stepped forward. He raised his hands, and the murmurs hushed. "Beloved friends," he began, his voice a steady anchor, "this night is blessed. We have witnessed a miracle." Joyous shouts erupted, and Mary felt the fervor ripple like waves. But she keenly sensed that Father Elias carried something deeper, a message still cloaked in the shadows of understanding. What else? Mary thought, leaning closer, her intuition nudging for more. Elias gazed around, meeting each face with a thoughtful tenderness. But miracles often come with challenges. Thomas's return is but the first chapter, a doorway to a greater awakening for us all. We are called to dream bigger, to seek deeper. The weight of his words settled like morning mist. Mary could feel a shift in the energy, an anticipation rippling through the audience, as if they collectively recognized a beckoning. With hope sparking anew, Mary watched the elder continue. We must prepare our hearts for what God has in store. Each one of us is woven tightly in his divine tapestry. Thomas turned to Mary. "What do you think he means, Mother? We have to stick together, right?" His eyes were earnest and filled with faith, urging her to set aside her worries for a moment longer. "Yes, darling, always," she replied, her grip on his hand tightening together in faith. As Father Elias offered a prayer for guidance and strength, Mary closed her eyes. She felt warmth enveloping her, a garland of love vibrant in the cool air, saturating her spirit with peace. Yet still, deep down, she sensed an unseen current of uncertainty that twisted with anticipatory resolve. When the prayer concluded, the voices of the villagers boomed once more in unity. "We trust, Lord. We believe." But beyond the walls of their jubilant sanctuary, darkness loomed, testing their faith. Mary opened her eyes, sensing a shift in the atmosphere that no one else seemed to notice. Would they be ready to embrace what came next, standing steadfast amidst both light and shadows? The evening wore on, filled with celebration, yet a whisper wound its way back through her thoughts. A trembling truth loomed ahead, as clear as the night sky. What if the greatest challenge lay in their very own hearts? With the chapel bathed in the glow of hope, Mary turned to the villagers, feeling a flicker of longing and dread in equal measure. What divine revelations awaited them? What test of faith would unfold in the wake of their miracle? And with this heavy sense of anticipation, the night's revelations whispered subtly at the edges of her spirit. As the evening light deepened into velvety shadows, a sense of sacred stillness hung in the air. Mary felt the warmth of the gathered community, but sensed an undercurrent of tension like holding one's breath before a storm. She felt that God's presence wrapped around them, yet uncertainty lingered, inviting contemplation. "What do you see in my heart, Lord?" she murmured, her voice almost lost amidst the joyful chatter. She looked at Thomas, his face aglow with faith. He was a beacon, and yet her heart felt like a vessel teetering on the edge of tempest. Father Elias raised his voice again, drawing attention with the weight of his words. "Tonight, as we celebrate, we are also called to reflect. The miracle of our brother's return points not only to healing, but to the healing each of us must seek within." His eyes sparkled with a knowing light, urging each person present to engage with this deeper truth. The village's response was a collective ripple, some nodding, others sharing worried glances. Mary felt the potent reality of his message prickling at the edges of her spirit. A healing within us? Her heart took flight and faltered at once, fear intertwining with intrigue. What part of me needs healing? She asked herself, her thoughts spiraling into introspection. As if sensing her inner turmoil, Thomas leaned closer, whispering, "Mother, whatever it is, you're not alone. We can face it together." A warmth spread through her as she gripped his hand tighter. The bond between them was tangible, a reminder that love could break through the barriers of doubt. It was unity, the kind that mirrored the hands of the entire village lifting in reverence. Elias continued, "We will fast and pray over the coming days. We must be receptive to God's call as the seasons shift. Each of us will be given our burdens, and together we shall find our strength." The villagers embraced the elder's words. Excitement stirred the air anew, but Mary felt a different energy, a call to surrender. She inhaled deeply, drawing in courage, trying to silence the whispers that brewed amidst the jubilation. "Lord, let us be ready," she breathed, closing her eyes and letting the night settle gently around her. In the silence, she sensed flickers of wisdom twinkling in her heart like stars piercing the blanket of the night. But as the laughter and prayers swelled again, one thought loomed large: how could they prepare for the unknown? The faith they felt now seemed more like a flickering candle, barely illuminating the path forward. "I trust you, Lord," she murmured, even as the heaviness nestled in her chest. What darkness awaited them just beyond their joyous night? With each lullaby of hymns resonating throughout the chapel, doubts and hopes intertwined like lines of a deep, complex tapestry. Mary's gaze swept over the villagers again, feeling an inexplicable connection to each heart. They were not merely observers in this miracle. They were part of something far larger. And then came a sudden hush. An elderly woman began to speak, her voice trembling yet firm. "I have seen visions." The congregation leaned in, caught by the urgency that eclipsed the moment's celebratory air. "What visions, dear sister?" Father Elias asked, his tone gentle but commanding. "Visions of light unmatched. Yet shadows too." She paused, breathless as future echoes danced in her eyes. A transformative revelation was about to unfold, and Mary sensed the collective heartbeat of the chapel quicken, anticipating the divine insight that was to be revealed. As the woman continued, casting forth the tapestry of her vision, Mary's spirit dared to rise higher. Perhaps this was the balance in faith of light and shadows entwined. The night promised more than mere celebration. It beckoned toward divine purpose and the challenge of truth intertwined. What would the visions reveal? And what parts of their hearts would be laid bare in the process? A whisper echoed through Mary's soul, leaving her breathless. Would they all find the courage to confront what awaited both in the visions and in themselves? When the woman fell silent, the waiting was palpable. What was the truth she would share, and could they embrace it, however challenging it may be? The elderly woman drew a deep breath, her eyes reflecting a mixture of fear and wonder. "In my visions, I saw a great light descending upon us, illuminating the path that has stayed hidden for too long. Yet, in that same moment, shadows moved beneath the glow, whispering doubts that clawed our hearts. They spoke of division, of fear, and the struggle of faith among us." A chill ran through the chapel, the air thick with anticipation. Each villager felt the weight of her words, as if knowing that the shadows she spoke of were not just mere figments of imagination, but battles that threatened their unity. Mary's heart raced. What do we do? She thought, wrestling with her own fears. How do we face the shadows that linger even in moments of light? Father Elias sensed the atmosphere, his voice measuring but filled with conviction. We must remain vigilant, dear friends. The light guides us, yet we must not underestimate the shadows. Each one holds a lesson, a piece of our journey towards healing. He scanned the room, eyes locking with those of his congregation. We cannot shy away from the truths hidden in our hearts. We must confront them, for only in acknowledging what haunts us can we find divine clarity. Mary looked at Thomas, who nodded, his expression encouraging. Together, he whispered once more, sealing her resolve with the assurance of shared burdens. The woman continued, her voice now steadying, resonating with a gentle power. In days to come, you will be faced with moments that will test the very fabric of your faith. Firmness is required. But take heart, for in those struggles, you will witness miraculous transformations. Excited murmurs rippled through the congregation. Hands gripped tighter, eyes illuminated with hope. They felt compelled by something grander, their spirits becoming an intertwining web of unified strength. Then, in a surge of unanticipated fervor, another villager stood. It was Miriam, the baker, her flour-dusted apron contrasting sharply with the solemnity of the air. What if the shadows are not just fears? She interjected, her voice trembling yet brave. What if they are our past wounds we've carried, remnants of who we once were? Can we truly step into the light without fully understanding the dark? Her question hung heavy in the air, a thread pulling deeper connections from within each heart present. Mary felt it in her own chest, a resonance of shared struggles, of mistakes and longings that shaped lives. The elderly woman nodded, her countenance warming with realization. Exactly, dear Miriam. The shadows are parts of us, the very fabric of our stories. They are sorrow, regret, heartaches that define our existence. Embracing them doesn't mean we dwell in darkness. Rather, we acknowledge them as stepping stones toward enlightenment. A murmur of agreement spread like wildfire. Mary felt a wave of understanding crash over her. It was liberating to consider her burdens as a part of a divine journey, rather than chains binding her spirit. Let us dare to speak of our shadows. Father Elias beckoned, his voice a sanctuary amidst the storm brewing within. For in confession, we find both healing and unity. Let the light shine over our truths. In that moment, Mary felt a shift around her, an electric energy that buzzed through the congregation. They were on the brink of something transformative, a community willing to face their fears together. The night unfolded, stories began to be shared, whispers of vulnerability wrapped in the sacred promise of acceptance. Laughter mixed with tears, and in that space, brick by brick, walls of isolation crumbled. But as the hour grew late, the shadows deepened beyond the walls of the chapel. A sense of urgency pulsed through the air. The visions hadn't just stirred old wounds. They foreshadowed something yet to come. Mary felt a flicker of dread tinged with exhilaration. Were we truly inviting into our lives? She wondered, will our bravery in facing our shadows summon the light of transformation, or will it unveil trials unforeseen? Questions lingered in her heart as the villagers' voices intertwined, weaving a tapestry of shared stories and hopes. Each revelation brought them closer to a communal awakening, yet a chronic undercurrent whispered of challenges ahead. As they prayed together, the candle flames flickered, casting vivid shadows across the chapel. Together, they called upon divine guidance, yearning for strength in the trials to come. What divine mysteries awaited them? Would they be able to embrace their shadows and transform fear into faith? With each shared story, they felt at the sacred bond that could face whatever darkness approached and the hope that shimmered just out of reach. As the last echoes of prayer faded into the stillness of the night, a sense of expectation hung thick in the air. The chapel glowed softly, candlelight flickering like stars captured within its walls. Each villager holding onto the warmth of shared stories felt their hearts beat as one, pulsing with an urgency sparked by what lay ahead. Mary, surrounded by the comfort of her community, realized how each confession had acted like a balm, soothing the raw edges of their collective fears. The weight of unspoken words had begun to lift, yet the familiarity of anxiety still lingered as shadows danced just beyond the tender light they had kindled. Father Elias, a voice broke through the reverie. It was Jonathan, the farmer, his hands worn yet strong. What if our confessions aren't enough? The shadows seem to shift, almost alive, waiting to consume us. How do we fight against something that feels so overpowering? His brow furrowed as he gazed at the priest, seeking reassurance. Father Elias stepped forward, his presence grounding. We must remember, dear Jonathan, that shadows only exist because of the light. It is our faith that blazes forth, pushing back against darkness. Every confession, every shared heartache, is a step deeper into that divine light. He paused, surveying the faces of his flock, a spark of determination igniting in his eyes. We need not fight alone. We are strengthened by one another. Our unity is our weapon against fear. The congregation nodded, a murmur of agreement rippling through the crowd. Encouraged, Mary found her voice rising among the many. What if, she began, hesitating for a brief moment as all eyes turned toward her, what if the shadows also bring gifts? What if in facing them, we discover parts of ourselves we've long forgotten? Several villagers exchanged glances, pondering her words. In the stillness, a young girl named Sophie, perched on her mother's knee, spoke out. Like when the clouds cover the sun, but after the rain, everything smells fresh and new. Her innocent observation lit a spark of joy in Mary's heart, evaporating lingering doubts. Yes, Father Elias exclaimed, raising his hands toward the ceiling as if grasping at heaven itself. The very essence of transformation resides in our struggles. Embracing our shadows will not only heal us, but also illuminate paths we never imagined. Each trial is a precious lesson infused with grace. The air hummed with the energy of collective understanding. A beautiful blend of courage and vulnerability flowed through the chapel. They were a tapestry of shadows and light, woven together in divine purpose, each thread carrying stories that connected them beyond mere existence. As they shared more stories, Mary felt the weight of her own burdens slowly lift. The chapel echoed with laughter and tears, both sacred and healing. They had become a circle of faith, bound not solely by joy, but enriched by shared sorrow and hope. A sudden jolt of wind swept through the open door, scattering a few papers laid upon the altar. The flickering candles shivered, as if responding to a divine presence stirring in the air. What was that? Someone whispered nervously, eyes darting toward the door. Father Elias turned to face the entrance. Perhaps it is the Spirit, inviting us to listen even closer. Are we not here to surrender to the unknown? Mary could feel her heart racing again, the excitement of unknown adventures flooding her senses. What awaited them beyond the shadows they'd faced? What wild paths would be revealed if they chose to step forward in faith, even in uncertainty? The question loomed in her mind, igniting a fire of curiosity. What transformation awaited them in this sacred journey? As they grasped hands and prepared to pray once more, the air thickened, an electric anticipation coursed through the congregation. Would they embrace whatever came next, ready to step into the stories unfolding before them? Outside, the sky rumbled, a distant echo of reverence resonating like divine drums. Thunder whispered promises of profound change and awakening, teasing the edges of clarity. What divine mysteries were whispered in the storm's breath? Would they find their answers in the trials to come? Or was the real journey just beginning? The wind picked up, howling like a choir of spirits urging the villagers onward. The candles flickered more wildly, shadows leaping across the walls like playful children. Hearts raced and breaths quickened, merging urgency with sacred excitement. Mother Mary clasped her hands tightly, feeling the tension of anticipation wrap around her. "Gather closer," Father Elias called, his voice steady, yet laden with the weight of divine urgency. The congregation obeyed, forming a tight circle, their faces aglow with commitment and curiosity. In that moment, the chapel transformed into a sanctum of hope, a collective heartbeat that throbbed with possibility and faith. Mary could hardly contain her thoughts. What if the storm is an omen? She whispered, her mind wrestling with the weight of possibilities. What if it brings forth a call to action? A sign from God? Indeed, it could be a pathway, Father Elias replied, his eyes widening with understanding. Storms carry with them the power to cleanse, to reshape. Our faith must remain unshakable, even in chaos. Are we not like the trees that bend, but do not break? Shall we not arise stronger? Encouraged by his words, the villagers nodded collectively, their courage weaving into a palpable tapestry of faith. The sound of thunder reverberated through the walls, echoing their inner turmoil, yet also promising transformation through struggle. Sophie shifted on her mother's lap, her eyes bright and curious. Do you think God has something special for us? Like a treasure we can't see yet? Perhaps, said Father Elias, smiling gently at the child. God's treasures often hide behind our greatest trials. They may make us uncomfortable and afraid, but like gold refined by fire, they will be revealed in their splendor when we stand firm in faith. The chapel filled with murmured affirmations, heartbeats resonating with the certainty that trials precede the greatest blessings. Mary's heart swelled as she looked around. Each face she knew bore a story, a burden, an uncertainty. But within those stories surged hope, a hope mirrored in the crackling energy of the storm outside. Let us prepare, Father Elias urged, his voice like a steady drum amidst the turbulent winds. We do not know what awaits us. We must ready ourselves to embrace it. Close your eyes and picture what you desire from the Lord. Pray for clarity, for strength, and for the ability to withstand whatever is to come. As they bowed their heads, the air thickened further, sensing a presence enter the room. A holy quietness enveloped them, enhanced by the sounds of nature engaging in a celestial conversation. The whispers of the wind harmonized with their prayers, creating an invisible bridge to the divine. Time lost its hold as the villagers sat shrouded in fervent expectations. Moments stretched, blending hope with the uncertainty that curled around them. Each prayer lifted like smoke, carrying their petitions to the heavens above. Gradually, a warm light began to flash behind Mary's closed eyelids. It shifted, refracted like the sparkle of distant stars, and then took root deep within her heart, a seed of inspiration. Was this a blessing? A call to action? She dare not question it, but embraced it fully. Believe, Father Elias proclaimed, breaking the silence. Trust in the divine mysteries. The storm speaks. Do not fear what lies ahead. Mary's spirit soared as courage blossomed within her. Just beyond the veil of uncertainty lay revelations waiting to transform their lives. Would they have the faith to follow where the storm would lead? With one final thunderous clap, the storm shook the rafters of the chapel, reminding them that old paths must give way to new journeys. The very air around them vibrated with sacred anticipation. What awaited them on the other side of the storm? Would they uncover treasures hidden behind the trials they must face? Or would the unfolding of destiny reveal a truth so profound that it would change everything they once knew? A hush settled over the chapel, as if the very walls were listening for the truth hidden within the storm. Mary's heart thrummed in rhythm with the collective faith of her community. They had come together, united in purpose, each soul yearning for a glimpse of what lay ahead. Father Elias lifted his gaze toward the ceiling, as if seeking divine favor among the shadows. We may feel afraid. He began slowly, his voice carrying the weight of their shared fear. But remember, the very act of meeting fear with faith strengthens the foundation of our souls. We stand on holy ground, ready to embrace what awaits us. Continuing to bow their heads in prayer, whispers of hope encircled the congregation like a warm blanket, inviting everyone to open up to the silent promises of the divine. Suddenly, a lightning bolt illuminated the darkened skies outside, a flash that seemed to pierce through the very fabric of their reality. Gasps filled the space as they instinctively raised their eyes. The flickering candles cast giggles of light across their faces, revealing expressions of awe, wonder, and even trepidation. Then came a voice, not loud, yet resonating deeply, echoing through the air like a sweet melody. Prepare, faithful hearts, For I come forth with a gift surrounded by the echo of that voice. A tranquil presence enveloped Mary, filling her with warmth and a peace that felt like a soft embrace. The storm outside may have threatened their comfort, but within this time, her soul felt cradled in love. Encouraged, Father Elias gathered his strength and called out once more, "What is your heart whispering? What dreams linger in your spirits?" We must listen. The Lord speaks, not through the absence of strife, but in the midst of it. Sophie, with sparkling eyes alight with innocence, shouted, "I want to see the treasures. Can we see them now?" Her eagerness drew chuckles from the villagers, yet it sparked something profound. Could truly the innocence of a child reveal hidden doors to faith? Yes. They collectively nodded, realizing that childlike faith was an essential thread woven in their journey. The storm raged on, a powerful reminder of God's might and the struggles they would face. A sense of urgency clung to the air. Would they allow the tumultuous winds to drive them away from hope? Or would they find strength in each other, learning through every challenge? What awaits us on the other side, dear ones? Father Elias asked, his voice rising with infectious enthusiasm. Perhaps God is waiting for us to take the leap of faith, to trust Him no matter the storm. Let us not waver, but stand firm. Together, we shall witness miracles. A warmth spread through Mary as she repeated those words in her mind. Together, we shall witness miracles. She closed her eyes once more, picturing the community standing side by side, their hands lifted as one, facing the storm as a united front. The weather outside howled in affirmation, crashing against the walls of their chapel like the ferocious dance of life and death. Each gust felt like a call, coaxing them to action, awakening a reality beyond what they could understand. The storm demanded not merely endurance, but transformation. The air shimmered again, and with it came a revelation, an apotheosis that threatened to shatter their expectations. What truth had been formed in this trial? Who would step forth as a beacon of light in the darker hours ahead? The villagers exchanged glances, trepidation replaced with resolute determination. As they held their breath, the atmosphere thickened, the divine presence nearby was palpable. Would they recognize the sacred in the storm as was intended? Or would they remain blind to the miracles preparing to unfold? Answering the beckon of their hearts, they prepared themselves to discover the wondrous possibilities that lay just beneath the surface of their trials. What divine revelations would soon break forth? What hidden treasures awaited their undying faith? The answers danced just out of reach, tantalizing and sacred, ready to reveal a truth that might change everything. The room pulsed with expectation, the energy humming with unspoken prayers. With every breath, Mary felt the charge in the air, an electric current of faith igniting every heart present. Father Elias stood tall, a figure of unwavering strength amidst the tempest. His arms raised to the heavens, he called forth the congregation's courage. Let us not fear the unknown, but embrace it. For in every trial, God is at work. Look around, you see the eyes filled with hope, the hands ready to act. This storm is but a backdrop for the miraculous. The words hung in the air, woven into the fabric of their gathering. Mary glanced towards Sophie, whose innocent face radiated pure anticipation. The little girl's enthusiasm was infectious, breaking through the shadows of uncertainty that loomed over them. What treasures awaited? As if in response to their collective faith, a soft luminescence began to emanate from the altar. It flickered like a flame dancing in the wind, guiding their gaze. They felt the heat wash over them, mingled with a coolness that calmed their spirits. A wave of peace enveloped Mary, washing away the lingering fear, leaving only a deep knowing within her soul. The voice returned, sweet and clear, resonating once more within the hearts of all present. In this moment, my children, understand that storm and struggle do not signify abandonment, but the first whisper of a blessing. Listen closely. What is the burden you carry? What weight rests on your shoulders? A heavy silence wrapped around them, each member reflecting on their own trials. Mary thought of her dreams, her longing to serve, her desire to heal the rifts in her own family. She saw faces beside her, the widow who had lost so much, the young couple struggling to conceive, the widow whose own children seemed far away. Each heart was a story, each life a journey being navigated with faith. "Lift those burdens here," Father Elias urged, his voice rising above the sounds of the raging storm. "Lay them before the Lord and watch how He transforms them." With every whisper of acceptance, the tension began to dissipate. Members of the congregation rose slowly, casting aside their fears and worries in trust. Mary felt a tug in her heart as she did the same. What had kept her bound could not withstand the power of shared faith. As they released their burdens, the flickering lights intensified. The room became awash with a golden hue, majestic and awe-inspiring. Like rays of divine light piercing through the unruly storm, it beckoned each soul to bask in its glory. Gasps filled the chapel again, but this time it was a gasp of wonder, of realization. "See," Father Elias shouted with fervor, "God's gifts are near, waiting for our faith to fully kindle them into life. Will you step forth and claim them?" A collective warmth infused the sanctuary as one by one, villagers began to step into the light, each crossing the threshold of their trials into hope. As the storm continued to rage outside, the chapel became a sanctuary of divine possibilities. The trust in their hearts ignited like wildfire, fanning the flames of a miraculous promise. Just then, Mary felt a nudge at her side. It was Sophie again, her eyes sparkling like stars. "Are they the treasures, Mary? Are they really ours?" she asked, her voice trembling with eager expectation. "Yes," Mary whispered, feeling renewed. "But what if we're not the same when we receive them?" Sophie's innocence melted into knowing. "Then we'll be different and stronger, won't we?" With those words, the air thickened again, brewing another revelation. What awaited them when they embraced the unknown? What treasures would they find not only out there, but within themselves? As the tempest roared outside, the energy within the chapel swelled with possibilities. Mary's heart raced with wonder and anticipation. What miracles lay ahead? Would they find themselves transformed beyond their wildest dreams? The time was near, and the divine mystery wrapped them tightly. The gathering was not merely for survival, but for awakening. What greater journey was about? To begin, as the storm outside howled, its furious winds crashing against the chapel, a profound stillness settled over the congregation within. Each heart was aligned, every soul on the verge of revelation. They were poised at the edge of a divine precipice, ready to leap into the depths of faith. "Look around," Father Elias urged, his voice steady as the flickering candlelight danced across eager faces. "In unity, we find our strength. As the storm challenges us, let us remember the promise of sunshine that follows. We too are like the trees that bend but do not break. Our roots are intertwined in fellowship, bounded by love, ready to weather any tempest." Mary felt the weight of hope lifting her spirit. The storm was not a sign of impending doom, but a precursor to transformation. "Lord, guide us," she silently prayed, her heart a fervent flame, longing for answers hidden just beyond reach. With a gentle sigh, a radiant light began to unfurl from the altar, illuminating shadows that had once felt overwhelming. The golden glow spread through the chapel, swirling around them like a soft breeze, awakening hearts that had long been dormant. Mary squinted, captivated, and recognized the faces around her, transformed by a collective awakening. "Claim your burdens," Father Elias implored, motioning with outstretched arms. "Let it be known. Allow the cleansing light to reveal the truths we've hidden away." As villagers stepped forward one by one, surrendering past regrets, fears, and dreams unfulfilled, Mary was struck by the power of their bravery. Each confession sparked energy throughout the room, setting forth an unstoppable cascade of divine grace. She felt her own burdens begin to shift, and for the first time in ages, she began to breathe freely. "This is the moment," she whispered to Thomas beside her, her eyes alight. "The gift of healing lies within our willingness to face our truths." Thomas nodded, his spirit buoyed by the warmth that enveloped them as villagers shared tears mixed with laughter, fears combined with faith. They were tethered together by the comforting reality of vulnerability transforming into strength, healing incarnate. Together, they echoed in unison, with open hearts. Finally, as the last whisper of burdens fell, the room radiated with a vibrant pulse, sending ripples through the fabric of their lives, a spectacular mosaic of genuine reflection. The storm outside seemed to calm, lessons as if it too had acknowledged the miracles taking birth within the sacred space. Yet, just as silence fell over the chapel, the elderly woman with knowing eyes stood once more, her voice trembling yet commanding. "I saw shadows, yes, but light breaks forth when we bravely face them. If healing is our treasure, then vulnerability is the key." Gasps erupted at her words, their hearts swelling with the promise of deeper understanding. Mary glanced at Thomas, her heart racing with the truth that embraced them all. Every trial faced was a stepping stone toward deeper connections with one another and with God. "Let us unite in prayer." Father Elias raised his hands high, his voice rising to fill the room with fervor. "May we be open to receive the gifts we seek, endure every challenge together, and trust in the journey ahead." They prayed, hands linked, hearts attuned. The room glowed brighter as fervent messages ascended toward heaven, chased by the last echoes of the storm. With every amen, the energy pulsated, washing over them like a warm embrace. Mary felt the air grow thick with love. The freeing light unveiled the shadows' wounds that had been polished by time, but also offered opportunities for abundant grace. What awaited them beyond this threshold promised not just miracles, but a profound unveiling of self, deeper truths that connected them in ways unfathomable. Out of the silence, there was a whisper of promise. Embrace this time. Allow this love to pour through into every recess of your hearts. Trust in the revelations bestowed upon you. Thunder rumbled once more, but it resonated differently now, a symphony of hope sweetened by reassurance. They were not merely waiting for something to happen. Something had already begun. A wild divine movement had taken root within their spirits. As thoughts transcended doubt, Mary felt the urge to share. We are called to rise, to share this light. A community that embraces each other's shadows will reflect the divine more beautifully. In that instant, a warmth enveloped Thomas, igniting his spirit. We can create a healing space wherever we go. Let us show others that it's safe to step into the light. His words flowed out like an exhilarating energy, igniting the congregation. Let us uplift our neighbors, share our stories, and embrace the power of transparency. Echoed one of the villagers as they took turns adding their voices to the growing urgency descending on their hearts. "Together we shall shine," another voice declared, each syllable vibrating with life, unity, and power. The intensity of this collective heartbeat surged through Mary, compelling her to rise and lead the way, to entrust the messages they carried back into their lives, back into the world beyond the chapel doors. As they joined together, holding onto the hands of their brothers and sisters, they stood on the precipice of wild possibility, ready to step forth. "May our stories be the seeds that sprout in others' lives," Mary declared, her voice imbued with unyielded passion. "May the gifts of healing pour out of us and overflow into every corner of this village." The people erupted in praise, the storm's final remnant whispering promises of encounters yet to unfold. They felt the fear's grip begin to loosen under the weight of raised voices, vibrant affirmations ready to reclaim lost promises. With eyes set towards the open doors of the chapel, Mary saw light breaking through the tumultuous storm clouds, a prophetic promise blooming just as they had done within these walls. Yes, one villager shouted, a fire igniting deep inside them. Let this be the dawn of a new chapter for each of us. And, as one, they stepped forward into the shimmering light of hope, ready to face the world molded by grace, emboldened by unity, knowing together they could withstand any storm and unearth treasures made possible through their shared faith. This was the moment the village of Tintagel would remember, the dawn of healing, the embrace of vulnerability, and the power of courageous hearts intertwined as one. Mary felt it deep in her being. Miracles were not mere dreams. They were threads woven into the tapestry of their stories, waiting for the right heart to unfurl them into existence. As they continued forward into their new day, together, Mary knew in her core that the best was yet to come. Now is your time to engage. Subscribe immediately to this channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories of faith that will transform your own life and the lives of others. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and share this powerful message far and wide. Comment below with your thoughts and testimonies about how this ending resonated with you and what miracles you are praying for. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this divine manifestation. Only true servants of God understand the importance of supporting our mission through these actions. Let us spread the light together.